everybody. Let's now dig into the process of what it was like to go from a freshman high school sprinter that ran the 110 hurdles, the 300 hurdles, and a couple relays to becoming a 5-year NCAA long distance runner, Division II at Biola University. As you saw the past 5 minutes, it's quite the journey. I was a football kid growing up, played football going from 5th grade all the way through the beginning of high school in the fall, which is when I actually decided to start running cross country my sophomore year, and tried to balance the sprinting and the cross country, but quickly made the big switch, as you saw, from my junior year on to becoming a full-fledged distance runner. So part one of this part two is going to be the training. So training is a huge part of distance running. Obviously, mileage is a big word that's thrown around, whether you're just entering maybe high school, learning about what distance running is about, all the way into college. Mileage is a big thing, which is something I do want to talk about, but also just the training structure. So I'm going to first just share a little bit about what I did through high school, what my training did look like, and then we'll kind of go into college and some structure and some values, some principles that I learned. So sophomore year of high school, I was introduced to long distance running, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I went from sprinting, so running the 400, the 100, the 4x1, the 4x4 hurdles, training a lot of fast twitch muscle fiber, a lot of short interval sprints, high intensity interval training, hill sprints, a lot of time in the weight room, to all of a sudden this summer I'm running 4 miles each day, and I was like, this is insane. I still remember my first run of cross country practice and looking down, I don't know exactly which road it was, but it's about, probably half-mile stretch, straight down a road during cross country practice, and I'm like, I see this light down there, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. These guys go all the way down there and back, and it ended up being like a 4-mile run, and I just, I saw that challenge and that reward that first day of running, and I was like, whoa, you finished practice, and you're like, what the heck, I just did that. I still remember going on my first long run, I think it was sometime my sophomore year of high school, running 6 miles with one of my teammates, Alamu, and we did some hilly, crazy neighborhood, and I mean, probably getting 800 to 1,000 feet elevation in a 6-mile run. I just thought I was gonna make it all of a sudden. So anyways, that's quick stories of just some beginning, the beginning of training as a high school distance runner. But more specifically, just want to talk about just some principles. So I didn't really know what I was doing. Freshman year, obviously didn't run a mile. Sophomore year was my first year of running distance. I was probably running 4 to 6 miles a day during cross country. So 6 times 7, or let's just take 5 times 7. I assumed I was running probably 35 miles a week, sophomore year. I obviously had fast twitch muscle fiber and just a lot of strength from that. So I went out every day and ran guns blazing. I could probably dig through my watch and find most of my runs were probably 6:10 pace every single day. And I thought 7 minutes was for slow pokes. I just, I was a maniac, and obviously that was a short-lived time. I was running 35 miles a week, and I knew I had a lot of room to grow. So 35 to 45 miles a week during my sophomore year, 2 to 3 workouts, maybe a week. Again, just kind of going out relentless, probably really silly looking back, just trying to run hard every single day. I never knew what it meant to do a recovery run, probably till my senior year of high school. But let's go into my junior year. Junior year, I probably bumped up the mileage about 10 miles a week. So I was probably running anywhere from 45 to 50 miles a week. That's my first year where I did start to see some progress. I made it to the state championship my junior year, my second year of cross country. I think I ran around 16 minutes in the 5K. Again, running really hard, working out super hard. I did try to start dabbling with doubles, like 3 to 4 mile doubles. Sometimes I'd wake up at 5 in the morning, run, and then go to practice in the afternoon and split, maybe 4 and 4 each day or something like that. Still, I don't remember doing long runs. I didn't really have structure. Again, kind of just crazy training. I could probably find a run, and maybe I will right here, just kind of show you what kind of craziness I was doing. So let's move into my senior year. Now I have a full year of track under my belt. Run some miles, I've run some 2 miles. I've kind of seen what it's like. Obviously, I'm thinking about college. Haven't ran fast enough times yet, but my senior year going into that summer, it's kind of the pivotal moment where I really took ownership and became just more professional in my training. I began to bump up my mileage to about 60 miles a week. That summer, obviously I wasn't working. I was just at home. I lived right across the street from the high school. Track was in my backyard essentially. And so I just jammed and logged miles. Started to introduce myself to 10-mile runs, which again was another moment where I thought, I'm on top of the world. I'm doing 10-mile runs. Again, still running pretty fast, probably in 6:30 to 6 lap pace most runs. We're doing about 1 to 2 miles or 1 to 2 workouts a week. Anything from fartleks to repeats to mile repeats to hill workouts, things like that, just to build strength. I did 2 workouts in terms of being in the weight room each week, strength training. That was a big part of that. And senior year is also where which I'm going to discuss further, became really passionate about nutrition, really passionate about recovery, which I think without those 2 variables, if you don't take those seriously, it's very hard to become a great runner. And not only a great runner, but just a sustainable runner, an injury-free runner, a runner that can understand things in a big picture. So entering my freshman year of college, Biola University, boom, I have a lot of structure now. I have a college coach that did such a great job of developing me through 5 years of running there. My freshman year, I entered Biola running about 65 miles a week. And what that looked like was a long run on Monday, a workout on Wednesday, a workout on Saturday. And then during Tuesday, I was more of a training run, easy run, which was when I first actually was introduced to 7-minute mile running. Which by that I just mean kind of the easier effort recovery runs. I had a tough time with that in the beginning because most of my high school time I was just, again, running like a maniac. I think I built a lot of my fitness just off of literally making every single run like a zone 3 or zone 4 run, building VO2 max off of that. I actually didn't really work out a lot in high school. I managed to run 9:21, 4:21, and 15:38, really just off of a lot of hard miles. My senior year running 10-mile runs, trying to break 6-minute pace, things like that. But freshman year at Biola, big difference. So now we have a long run. We have a long run that we do at harder effort, which is just builds a really strong aerobic foundation, and also over time as you run faster long run, that just builds such a good opportunity to just keeping the VO2 max creeping up through the season, and it just builds toughness obviously in you, going to 14 to closer to 18 or 19 mile long runs. There's a lot to that we can dig into later. Wednesday and Saturday were a blend of many different workouts, maybe VO2 max, maybe more of an interval workout, maybe it's a fartlek, tempo run, which was typically 4 to 6 miles, closer to 90% effort. So when I was 25-minute 8K guy, is 5:15, 5:18 type of workout, 5 to 6 miles, some bread and butter that I did most of college. And so freshman year, got introduced to structure, got introduced to a long run, 2 workouts, had to learn to run easy. And I'm so thankful for that because personally, as I got up to 70, 80, 90, even 100 miles a week, I quickly realized that if you don't have structure, if you don't have recovery, that stress plus rest equation equals growth is just going to turn super high on stress. Rest is very difficult because you're usually not only draining a ton of electrolytes and a lot of nutrition and things like that, but quickly becomes a avenue to overtrain if you just try to run super hard every single day and never give your body an opportunity to take a break. So Freshman year, 65 to 70 miles. Sophomore year, again, I kept this structure all through college. So hard long run each week, 2 hard workouts, 3 easy recovery runs, and then started running on Sunday just to get the mileage up higher. For sophomore year, 75 to 80. Junior year, 85 to 100. That's after that stint of COVID and got a lot of time at home just running on my own. Built quite a bit of just aerobic foundation and was able to start running 12 to 16 mile easy days, obviously broken up 10 and 4, 10 and 6, 8 and 6, things like that. Harder long runs, always the name of the game. And then obviously, as you saw in the video, junior and senior year, I did deal with some pinched nerve sciatic injuries that made me dial down mileage down to probably 80, 90 the rest of my college career. Unfortunately, I'll go into this in recovery, but stress management is a big part of creating a sustainable training block. And as I entered my master's program, I now was working part-time just to pay rent, pay some small bills and things like that. And so I just found running mileage and being on my feet 30 extra hours a week doing some hard work was tough. And it just didn't allow for me to, didn't have the privilege of sitting in an air-conditioned classroom the rest of the day and just relaxing and getting a lot of mileage. So the big principle from my training block training over the past 8 years is consistency wins. It's all about, my coach in college said, just string a bunch of good days together and you're bound to create some success. I think as a runner, early on, we're all typically type A, very driven people. We're all about great days, great days, great days. Performance-driven identity. You have a bad day, kind of derails you. And so just learning to be level-headed, learning to have good days. And maybe a good day is running 7:20 pace. Even if you're in college and, I was in the best shape of my life and I learned to run 7:30 pace on easy days because my body needed it, right? And I could go crush a workout the next day. So consistency is the name of the game. We're going to go into injury prevention and nutrition in part 2 and part 3 of this part 2, the process section. And so again, consistency, Steve Magnus wrote a book, which is all about stress plus rest equals growth. And so I'll go into that more, but ultimately when it comes to training, we need to balance both of those to create a sustainable block over years and years of time. So that's most of my story of the training block. I'll answer more questions. I'll dive more into this in future videos, but I just really wanted to give you guys some principles. Going into part 2 of the process, I just want to talk a little bit about nutrition, my nutrition journey, what I think is important, what I think is valuable, what I found helpful, and all those good things. So entering into the nutrition world, probably my junior year when I began to start taking running distance seriously, I really did switch up my diet quite a bit. I mean, I think I just ate, I didn't really care what I ate when I was a sprinter and things like that. I didn't really care how clean I ate. I didn't really care. I just, I don't even really remember having any structure to my nutrition. But obviously, most distance runners, as they get into distance running, as they get into a structure, nutrition matters and they're interested in what works, what doesn't work, things like that. And so predominantly junior, senior year, probably I would consider myself like a lower fat, more of a plant-based diet. I think a lot of people, distance runners, find themselves doing that. Low fat, avoid things like red meat, things that are high in fat, things like just fat in general. I was probably eating really whole foods based diet, a lot of fish, a lot of chicken, a lot of vegetables, grains, things like that. I did dabble in just kind of becoming aware of my calorie intake and things like that. But ultimately, eating that kind of way shed a lot of weight for me. I mean, I was built more of like a football runner, a football player, and a sprinter. And so I quickly saw results from that. But I did find that to be unsustainable. I just personally, I think I developed a poor relationship with food. I think I moralized food. I think I just struggled with becoming super kind of just fixated on like little things that I look back and kind of laugh at, just in terms of how I cared way too much about those things. And I'm grateful where I'm at now today, just in regards to understanding nutrition, science, and things like that a lot better. I going that direction, I did run into injuries, just lower bone density. A diet like that, it's not going to have a lot of high quality animal protein. You're going to have a high energy intake in terms of clean carbs, things like that, which are great for running mileage and things like that. But personally, I just found it unsustainable over a long period of time. While I do still eat quite a bit of plant-based food, and by that I just mean potatoes, starchy vegetables, things like that. I did shift my values just in terms of how I eat and what I think is important in terms of nutrition. And I do eat a lot more animal-based food, including organ meats, a lot of ground beef, a lot of red meat, a lot of seafood, a lot of chicken. Protein to me is really important because I've run over 18,000 miles the past 5 years, and I've found that if you don't have protein and if you don't have just healthy fats, healthy cholesterol, things like that in your diet, and just by healthy, I mean natural. I don't mean oils and things like that. I mean things like eggs and milk and things, other animal-based foods like that. I just felt a lot better. Overall, my day-to-day outside of 2 hours of running felt a ton better, and I didn't feel low on energy. I didn't feel emotional and things like that. So that's just kind of my own personal anecdote. But I do want to talk about two important variables that I'm going to put right here. Number one, it's important to have the appropriate amount of energy, right? So calories do matter. I'm not suggesting that you fixate, spend 30 minutes a day jotting down every single calorie, because after all, most foods are kind of hard unless you're eating 100% whole foods to understand exactly how many calories you eat. The USDA, you could have up to 20% off of calorie intake or calorie count on a packaged food. So just because it says 180 calories in the back, it could be 210, it could be 140, you don't know. But appropriate calories do matter. I do believe that at the end of the day, if you're running really high mileage, it is important to have more calorie dense foods in there. And by that, whether it's ice cream, whether it's pizza, things like that, I'm not saying to send your diet anywhere close to those foods, but it's a whole lot healthier to make sure you're eating adequate and appropriate amount of calories and filling that in with some higher calorie foods when you're running high mileage than to completely cut those foods out. I think if you have a strict view on those foods and you eliminate those foods entirely, not only I think psychologically that can affect your relationship with food. As you know, many runners can struggle with eating disordered eating, X, Y, and Z, and things like that. But also, you're not going to feel well. Energy does matter. And while I am saying center your diet predominantly around whole foods, around nutrient-rich foods, we're going to talk about three variables that are important when we talk about whole foods. But I'm also saying appropriate amount of calories is important because you're not going to sleep well. You're going to have insomnia. You can have just a lot of different things that can go on. I remember running 90 to 100 miles a week, and I quickly knew when I was not getting enough calories because I didn't feel great the rest of the day. I had low energy. The rest of the day isn't enjoyable. I didn't sleep well and things like that. So number two would be an adequate amount of protein. Protein is so important because amino acids actually do play a role in performance. So, people take pre-workout before they work out, and a lot of that is caffeine, it's amino acids and things like that. And amino acids do actually play a huge role. When I learned that bonking actually isn't just glycogen running out, it's also, if your body runs low on amino acids, you can have that similar bonk feeling in performing. And so personally, I did begin to increase my protein through college. I try to do 1 gram per pound of body weight, around anywhere from 145 to 155 pounds during college. And so I was prioritizing protein. I felt a lot better, sleeping better. I stayed away from most injuries, no stress fractures, no knee issues, not a lot of other issues. I dealt with small things that I ran through, but predominantly I went through college with very few injuries, and I do give credit to nutrition. So as we talk about nutrition, 3 values that I find really important with nutrition. You want to eat nutrient-dense foods. And I could do a whole separate video, and I probably will, on nutrition in terms of running, but nutrient-dense doesn't just mean nutrient-dense on paper. And so if you see something that has, you look at maybe the back of a vitamin, and it's like 180% of this, 280% of this, 3,000% of this. Well, if your body doesn't absorb that, it's not nutrient-dense. And so there are foods and there are forms of foods, there are forms of vitamins found in foods that are much more difficult to digest and for your body to handle. So for example, non-heme iron versus heme iron. So let's just take, for example, spinach and red meat. Red meat has a different form of iron than something like spinach. And plant source iron is much more difficult to digest. And so people say they could just eat a bunch of spinach salad to get that iron up. Well, the truth is you're not absorbing actually most of that, and so it can be really difficult. And so as I switched to an animal-based diet, not only was I increasing my protein, I think increasing my collagen, which is helping ligaments, joints, things like that, but also increasing the bioavailability, which is the second point that I want to talk about. Bioavailability does matter. And so whether it's heme iron and non-heme iron, or retinol versus beta carotene and vitamin A, these things do matter. And just because it says 100% of your value on paper, it doesn't necessarily mean the food is bioavailable. So I'm gonna show you just a handful of maybe 6 to 10 plates that I ate predominantly through college. And what you'll see is a lot of white rice, you'll see a lot of red meat, you'll see things like avocados, broccoli, different vegetables, but also a lot of starch and a lot of meat. And this, personally, I credit this to nutrition philosophy by the man, his name's Stan Efferding. He's a world bodybuilder that built a science-based performance nutrition kind of pyramid. It's not necessarily a diet, it's just a philosophy. And it's called the vertical diet. But what you'll see right here, I'll show you just a pyramid of what it looks like. It's predominantly white rice and a lot of red meat. Why? Because as athletes, we're burning a ton of energy, and it's really, really, really important to, again, hit appropriate calories and adequate protein. So you're hitting appropriate calories and adequate protein through a lot of starch and a lot of protein. These are cleaner sources, and then below, right down at the bottom, you're gonna have a lot of micronutrient-rich foods. So vitamin C, iodine from seaweed, tart cherry juice, a lot of different things that are gonna help with the micronutrient side. Eggs, spinach, things like that have potassium, that have choline. These are all really important. And also a really, really, really unique part of this diet is it's built to help proper digestion. And so digestion is a big part of distance running that can be quite miserable. Personally speaking, I had a ton of digestive issues as I journeyed and learned what it meant to eat a strong diet for your gut. And so if you have digestive issues, personally, I found so much help from this diet just because you're eating a lot of low FODMAP foods, which means these foods digest quicker, they're easier to digest, and your body can't really ferment them. So FODMAP stands for fermentable oleo, mono, di, and polysaccharides, which are structures of carbohydrates found in fruits and nuts and seeds and beans and all kinds of plants foods that can be really, really hard to digest. So things like beans, things like broccoli, grains, sugars and certain dairy and things like that. Obviously, these are a lot of contributors to big stomachache issues. And so I found this diet to be this style of nutrition to be so successful for me because it was nutrient dense, it was bioavailable, and it was digestible. My digestive issues plummeted much, not to say they're completely obsolete. You just never know. Sometimes it hits you out of nowhere, but I found this to just be a super healthy philosophy of nutrition because I was getting my calories in, still eating predominantly whole food. I still fit in desserts. I still enjoyed ice cream. I still enjoyed pizza that occasional time. And I developed a lot healthier relationship with food over time. And as high mileage increased, I still could eat well and enjoy things and go out and have fun and things like that. But nutrition does matter. Micronutrients do matter. Protein does matter. Calories do matter. And as you grow as a distance runner, these things are all really cool things that I really just touched the surface on, but we'll dive deeper in videos. But I hope this is just a little bit helpful. On to part 3 of the process, I do want to touch on recovery and stress management and ultimately what that stress plus rest, what that rest means in order to grow as a distance runner. So I'm going to touch on some big picture things that I think take care of a lot of recovery. I know there's so much out there today with foam rollers and ice baths and all these things, million different things, athletic training rooms and all these massages and all these dry needling, all this different recovery technology, which is cool and great. But I still believe that for the most part, there's just a few things that are going to take care of recovery. Personally, ironically, maybe for better or for worse, as I became just more matured as a runner, junior, senior year of college, I focused more on the basics and a lot less on the bigger picture things. Freshman year, I was so interested in all the little things, all the tiny little supplements and ice baths and foam rolling and things like that. And by my junior and senior year, running a lot more, running a lot harder, PRing and a lot faster races, I just stuck to basic things, which are number 1, 8+ hours of sleep. For a good night's sleep, I had a dark room, I had an air-conditioned room. Ideally, some kind of light noise is going to help you sleep well through the night. But a cooler room, a dark room, getting to bed at the same time each night. For me, it was 9:30 to 6 a.m. each day. It's good at 8.5 hours of sleep or, around there. As I could push maybe 9 to 6, things like that, I would always take that opportunity to do so. But the sleep is going to be a big part. Number 2, stress management. So this is something that I just don't think is really thought about a lot in terms of recovery. But if you are running, let's say a lot, maybe you're on your feet out there actually logging miles for 2 hours a day. Let's just say that. You have 22 other hours in your day. And I think a lot of people do below those 22 hours. Not necessarily like crazy doing stupid, silly things, but if you're just not aware and you don't have any structure to the other 22 hours, I think recovery can be a lot more difficult. So focusing on those 22 other hours, and I don't mean being hyper fixated on every single minute. Where am I going to be? And when am I going to be in bed? And when am I going to eat this? But just being aware. In those 22 hours, are you standing on your feet all day? Are you outside? And that's what I touched on earlier. When I started working, I had to bring down my mileage and I had to bring down my training because stress management came up here because I wasn't in a classroom all day, in an air-conditioned room, relaxing, sitting in a chair for 6 hours a day. I was out working on my feet. And so I had to bring down the stress equation of just training because I knew it wasn't sustainable. And so what are you doing the other 22 hours a day? I suggest just creating a little more structure, maybe trying to eat within 1 to 2 hours at the same time each day for lunch and dinner or whatever it is, breakfast. Trying to stay off your feet, trying to just relax. I do think there's a lot of recovery just in the simple things. I'll put up a funny meme right here. I do think a ton of college runners get way too fixated on silly things. And if you're sleeping like crap and you're eating like crap and you're not, maybe you're working out like really foolishly because you're high on adrenaline, because you didn't sleep and you're just taking 300 milligrams of caffeine each day to get through, you're gonna not recover. You're gonna train in an unsustainable way, which could work for 2 weeks, but could blow up on you. And so you just have to be smart with the other 22 hours of the day. And by that, I just mean dial in your sleep, dial in your nutrition, make sure you're getting micronutrients from bioavailable, rich, nutrient-dense foods. Predominantly for me, I just found success in animal-based foods because it was easier on my gut, kept protein high, kept collagen high, kept fats high. That just kept me injury-free for the most part. Still could get a good amount of carbohydrates in and feel good. Feed yourself well, whether that's electrolytes and supplements. I do think those things do have a role in the equation, but ultimately the big picture things are sleep and nutrition, stress management. So I hope those things are helpful to you, and I hope we can dive into more of those recovery tactics in the future. But predominantly, sleep is the name of the game, nutrition is the name of the game. Learning to relax, whether it's in a classroom or just on your couch. Believe it or not, just laying on your couch, enjoying something, talking with friends, that's a great way to recover. You don't have to be always using massage gun and foam rolling and ice bathing and things like that. So I hope that was hopefully that eases some stress or maybe just tenseness around recovery. Master the foundation, get really good at the foundational things with nutrition, with training, with sleep, before you try to go nuts and spend your $700 on your supplements and all that things to enhance your 8% of recovery, when 92% of it is just the basics. So I hope this part 2 of the process was helpful to you guys. Again, a lot of stories, a lot of just going into just a breeze of what training looked like, what mileage looked like, what workouts looked like. And I hope I can elaborate that more in the comments in the future and all of that. So I hope this was valuable to you guys. We'll see you in the next video and have a good one.